Okie dokie, ladies and gentlefolk. We are back with another episode. Episode 6. I'm sitting by the fire, just relaxing a little. It's hard work being alone in a world filled with dinosaurs. But it occurred to me that, you don't get to sleep till you're dead. No rest for the weary. So we're going to go straight in and start making some saddles for the dinosaurs we tamed last episode. You need an ankylo saddle, which requires a bit of metal. And we're going to make a doed saddle. Doedicarus. These guys are some of my favorite dinosaurs. They're pretty easy to tame, and they are just fabtastic. Fabtastic. Now, we're going to skip just a little bit here so we can get to actually explaining the beauty of these guys. Alright, we're over here with the anky right now. Now, this one is pretty low level, 79, but he has a fair amount of health, about 3k. Stamina's terrible, and his oxygen is pretty terrible. Oxygen can actually be pretty useful in these guys, just because they actually work really well for mining underwater oil nodes. Now, his melee damage, that's actually the most important thing on an ankylo. Now, until you get a quetzal, you're going to have to worry about weight somewhat. But the more damage they do, the more metal they can gather. They just have the one basic attack, but they can fight off a fair amount of enemies with it. They have a lot of armor, so their health doesn't have to be the highest. Overall, not a great level, but a great dino. Now, this fella, however, and I've already put a couple of levels into him, but all the same, I think I'm going to write down what these are because these are really, really good stats. So they're definitely worth keeping and writing down. And I'm probably going to end up breeding this guy at some point just because he's kind of OP. Got really lucky with this tame. As you can see here, he has almost 6k health, over 1,000 stamina, which is really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little folder inside of their inventory. And that's easy. There's just a little folder button up there. And we're going to write down abbreviations of all their stats. Now when I do this on my own, I basically just write down the numbers because I can remember, in ascending order which they are. But you can fill these out however you want, really. Some people make 3 folders, some make 2. I prefer to try and keep 2, which is why I don't usually bother with the abbreviations. His melee damage is really high. It's at 455%. And that's gonna be great for us. The weight, 425, that's really good. It's, it doesn't need to be the highest, just because when it comes to Doedicarus, they get a huge weight reduction. I think a whole stack of stone weighs about 12 pounds or something like that. So you don't have to worry too much there. Now the key with both of these dinosaurs is you really don't want to remove anything from their inventory until you're ready to transfer. I've seen people that thinks it's a good idea to take some of the stone and metal off the dinosaur thinking it'll reduce their weight. But the dinosaur factors in your weight as well. And if a stack of stone weighs 50 pounds on you, you're adding a lot more to their carry weight. But as you can see here, he just trashes stone. In fact, there isn't a rock that he doesn't one-hit because his melee is just so high. They have this nice little roll move if you click the right click. It's pretty excellent. It does use their stamina. And if they lose 1/3 of their health, they'll actually ball up. So if you're trying to attack a base, they can be pretty useful too because you can just toss them in front of a turret and the turret will keep shooting at them even though they're balled, and they'll take way less damage. So that's pretty nifty. And they're really good for solo players because you can level up their weight. If it's your only dino, it's a pretty good choice. Now, moving back over to the taming side of the game. I'm sorry it's a little bit dark, but this guy's been wandering around for quite a while, and he's finally landed again. I think not only is he a great level, he's a 140, and he's pretty cool looking. He will be a great way to kind of breach into the subject of making kibble. So we're just going to knock this guy out real quick, just the same as we always do. There we go. I try to mix headshots and body shots. If the pterodon has particularly low defense, he could die pretty easily just to headshots. I've had that happen a few times. So his stats aren't great right now, but once he tames up, they'll get a lot better. We're just gonna run over here, and we'll get right into making kibble. All the while through this process, don't forget pterodons lose tons of torpor really fast. So we're going to try to keep up on that while we make this stuff, because it does take a few minutes to make kibble. It takes quite a while, actually. But it's a pretty easy process once you know what you're doing, and yeah, it's going to be fun. You'll see here I just crafted up a whole bunch of water skins. Now it takes fiber, mechelberries, the purple ones, and this recipe calls for cooked meat instead of anything more complicated. I'm going to grab some eggs out. As you see, we've collected quite a few so far. You toss those in there. And the last ingredient is actually the carrots. Alrighty. Now we're just going to fire this baby up. You see we have all the ingredients set up in here. We're going to add a whole bunch of water skins. You have to add one for every kibble that's made. What I could do is I could set up a water spigot coming in, but instead of doing that, because I'm lazy, I'm just going to wait until I actually get the advanced cooker, which you can hook water right up to, so you don't have to add the water skins at all. And it's incredibly useful, as this is a very tedious process. But it could be far worse, especially if you're near water. It's not that big of a deal. So make sure to keep up on maintenance. And there we have it. Our very first dodo kibble. This stuff is the best taming item in the game. Now, dodo kibble works for the little monkeys. It works for the ichthyoron. No, not... can't remember what they're called. They're dolphin fish. Little friendly dolphins you find. And they work on pterodons. Now, on a server that just has the basic settings, 1 times everything, you'll only get 71 levels. That's the most you can get unless it's 2 times. But it'll take about an hour for a 150 to tame, and you'll get 71 levels from it, if you give them the kibble. Which is really good. The very next best item to tame with is mutton, and that'll take over an hour and only give you 60 levels for a 150. Now, because we have the server settings turned up so much for this to make it a little bit easier and faster, we will easily get all of the levels that are going to be available to us at his level. And do bear in mind, when it comes to taming, it depends on how much food the dinosaur eats, not how long it takes to tame. So the more percentage the food item brings it up in taming, then the more levels you're going to get at the end. And we're just going to starve tame him, so as soon as we give him the kibble, he should tame immediately, because if we put food in him, we're going to have to wait around and put other food in him, because his taming percentage will begin to fall as soon as we, don't have any food in his inventory. So I'm going to make sure to just keep him knocked out and make some kibble before I bother going over to actually give it to him. And if you're using kibble, this is an especially good strategy, just in case something happens along the way. You don't want to lose that kibble. Alright, now I think we've crafted enough. It should take 12 kibble on 1 times, and we're on 5. So I have 7 here. We're going to see how many it takes to actually tame him up. He's lost close to 170 hunger. So he should be, pretty hungry at this point. There we go, and, oh, yeah, 2 kibble. Took all of 2 kibble to tame him up. And I'll name him Flappy. If you look over in his inventory, he's actually continuing to eat the kibble. So as soon as he tames, don't even bother naming them if you have a lot in there and they're very hungry. You don't want to feed them a whole bunch of kibble. And there we have it, a really nice looking pterodon. He's level 209, which is actually more than the levels we should have gotten for him. Normal, server settings, he would only get about 60 or 66 levels. You should tame out to 106 in the end. And this guy's 109, so that's pretty good. Oh, 209. My apologies. I can't do the math. And I think we're just going to cook up the rest of this kibble and see what else we can use it on, because I think that'll be pretty fun. Now, to find the other recipes, you just have to Google them. That's all I can say. I ran the trikes and anky up the hill real quick to gather metal, And I ended up netting myself over 1,000. That'll smelt down to over 500 bars. So that's pretty good. I think while it smelts, I'm gonna go tame and gather stuff. I feel like that'll be a good idea. Now, if you can avoid it, never just do one thing when you go out. Try to multitask as best you can. So here I'm going to be starting my egg farm, actually, which requires taming just about every dinosaur. Parasaurs, their eggs allow you to make kibble for the raptors, and raptor kibble allows you to tame mammoths. Now, you don't obviously need kibble to get eggs, so you don't need to tame raptors with kibble. But if I'm going to tame, I'm going to try and tame the best. That's just how I am. The only thing I don't care about is parasaurs, obviously. What I did is I took my boat and I got the anky, the trike, and the doed on board. And I'm just kind of going down the beach slowly, gathering materials and taming anything that seems useful. If you were around for last episode, you know that I lost most of my dinos, so I'm also on the lookout for them. I haven't seen quite as many as when I first started. The doed is especially good for this. I also set up some chests on the boat, and we'll see how many materials, or how much material, we can get at the end of this trip. So this little gal is pretty cute, and it's a 140. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to show you guys how to tame these. Now, at first glance, they don't actually have a use, and they are passive tame. So you just shove berries in the last item slot of your inventory, and go back and forth to them every once in a while. It'll say they're hungry, you press E on them, and they'll tame right up. As you can see, I've been taming quite a bit already on this. And it does take a minute, I have to say. But as long as there's nothing dangerous around, you can kind of just hang out with these guys for a while and feed them up as you go. This one's pretty as well. It's got like this green and an orange tinge to it. It's fairly nice. Lysters have a neat little ability. If you ever find yourself having trouble leveling up dinosaurs, having a Lyster around is very useful. Because what you can do with them is you can try and get them over near the edge. This one doesn't want to go. Dinosaurs will actually gain experience based on items that you're crafting, just like other players will. So if you're making a bunch of narcotics, for example, then it's good to have a Lyster around. You can get all your dinosaurs near whatever object is crafting, and then you just pet the guy. And for the next 5 minutes, all of your dinosaurs will get an experience buff. As you can see here, his passive experience is going up reasonably fast. If I was crafting some things, it would be going up quite fast, so that's just a neat little thing you can use. I like to use it. A lot of people kind of overlook the Lystro, but they can be quite helpful, especially if you're trying to get just a little bit more out of your dinosaurs. Now we're back at base. As you can see, I got quite a bit of material. I actually got enough to make a pterodon saddle by killing turtles with my trike. I have an entire chest worth of stone and just stacks upon stacks of flint. So it was a very good run, honestly. And when I turn around in a second, you'll see everybody I tamed in this most recent little excursion. There we go, got a nice saddle. See, just tons of flint. Now, as I turn, you'll see the majority of the guys I got just now. See, this is them. Got a handful of dinos, Lystro, like 4 parasaurs, and another pterodon, actually. So it was a pretty good run for taming, and it was a great run for gathering materials. Now we're just going to take Flyboy over here. And I actually renamed my other pterodon Flappy. He's now Flyboy. And then this is the new one I just tamed. So he got 217, which is pretty nice. And he has some really good stats on him. Now I'm just trying to decide which one's a little bit better, and I think it's this one. Plus he's pretty cool looking. So let's go for a ride. Flight in this game is super simple. You press E to mount and dismount, just like normal. You press the spacebar to lift off. and they will auto lift off when you jump on them. Flying is just pointing the mouse in whatever direction you want to go. Their special attack is this spin here. You press C to activate it, and it uses a ton of stamina. Always keep an eye on your stamina when you're flying. But they're pretty neat. They also have a nice little bite attack when they're landed on the ground that can be useful against smaller things like compies. But pterodons are not very good fighters in and of themselves. That spin attack can be used to great effect if you have a lot of stamina. I've actually killed Brontos with it. And these guys are pretty good at getting more chitin or keratin so that you can get more saddles going. And that's the biggest tip I can offer if you're using a flying dinosaur. Always have backup flyers. Never fly anywhere away from your base unless you have another flyer with a saddle. Because if you die out there, which can very easily happen and does all the time, you will lose your flyer and you'll lose all of your items. And that's not what anyone wants to happen, obviously. So make sure to be properly prepared. Get at least 2 flyers, possibly 3, before you do anything. But the reward is pretty great. You now have access to all the drops in the game, which yield really great loot and engrams, so you don't have to spend your points. You can get to places for new tames, you can transport things. Of course, pterodons have a very low carry weight, and it's not really worthwhile to level that up much. But getting these guys allows you to tame other flyers, like Argents, which can have huge amounts of carry weight. A good Argent will have like 1,000 carry weight on it, which it's really nice. But they're way slower, so you kind of have to sacrifice a little for it. I think this is about where I'm going to end this episode. It's run a little bit long now. We haven't done anything too exciting, and I apologize for that. It has not been a super fun episode. But I really want to get built up so that we can do a lot of more fun and risky things without having to worry too much. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Gonna come out with a new episode as fast as possible. And I'll see you on the Ark. Later, guys.